Well, if you go to chapter 22, verse 6 to 7, there you're going to see the names of Allah pretty much plagiarized from what Jesus said prior to the Quran. You'd think, if I didn't tell you this is Allah speaking, you think that you're reading the Gospel of John, because what is said about God here, the Allah of Islam, is exactly parroted from what Jesus says in the Gospel of John, which comes 600 years earlier. Here, you'll see it. So chapter 22, verse 6 to 7 says, that is because Allah is the truth. Al-Haq, that's one of the names of Allah. And because he gives life to the dead. And because he is over all things competent. Now here's an interesting part in verse 7. And that the hour is coming, no doubt about it, that Allah will resurrect those in the grave. See, only Allah gives life and resurrects the dead, and he's the truth. Well, if I go to the Gospel of John chapter 5, Jesus said all those things, but he applied it to himself. If you open up John chapter 5, you're going to have to open up the entire chapter because we're going to look at verse 21. So now watch here. Now watch Jesus say what the Quran says of Allah, but he says it 600 years before Muhammad showed up. So who's plagiarizing whom? It's not Jesus plagiarizing Allah. Now watch here. If he goes to John 5, I'll open it up.
Verse 21?
Yeah, we're going to open up the entire chapter if you can. If you go to BibleGateway.com, you're going to find Bibles galore. You mean I'm moving faster than the great Rob? What happened, Rob, brother? See, you can't keep up with the Assyrians, especially if he's Jilu, you know? Now, if you open up John 5, just put John 5, it's going to open up. Now, remember what Allah is, it said of Allah, he's the truth, he gives life.
Yes.
And then the hour is coming where he will raise
Sounds
the dead.
familiar.
Hold on, watch here. John 5:21. Watch here. Well, let's go here. 21. Now watch.
Right in the middle.
For just as the Father raises the dead and gives them life, even so the Son gives life to whom he is pleased to give it. So Father and Son both give life. But in 25, if you watch verse 25, verily, truly I tell you. Now, this translation, NIV, says a time. The little translation is, an hour is coming. If you read it, it's an hour, because NIV is more of a paraphrase. So some Bibles do not translate literally, because in translating literally, you lose meaning. So they have to paraphrase. So this is a paraphrase. In fact, we Assyrians can relate. If I say, Qatma brishuch, if you translate in English, you're going to say, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's how it is with languages. So sometimes you can't translate literally. You got to translate meaning. But literally it says, very truly I tell you, an hour is coming and has now come when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, not Allah. The Son of God, and those who hear will live. Now 28:29 says something amazing, because the Quran says, the hour is coming, have no doubt about it, well, Allah will raise them from their graves. But who does that according to our Bible? Do not be amazed at this, for a time is coming when all who are in their graves will hear his voice and come out. Whose voice? The Son of God. So if I were to compare what Jesus says of himself with what is said about Allah, clearly Jesus claimed to be God, because the things Jesus says is ascribed to the Islamic deity, not to a prophet. So a prophet cannot speak this way if Islam is true. So what did they tell you? Your Bible's corrupt. Another passage, John, you brought it up, John 14:6, right? We read that. I'm sorry. Notice there he says, I am the way and the truth, one of the names of Allah, and the life. So clearly the Jesus of history is not Isa. He did not announce coming Muhammad. So from a Christian perspective, as offensive as it may be, facts are facts. If we all believe the same thing, we'd be the same religion. According to the New Testament, it's going to hurt people. Muhammad is an antichrist. That's the New Testament teaching. Because what is the criteria for an antichrist? 1 John chapter 2, 22 to 23 tells you. Who is the antichrist? He who denies the Father and the Son. Islam says Allah is not a father, and Jesus is definitely not his son. In fact, in chapter 9 of the Quran, verse 30, you know what it says? And the Jews say, Uzair is the son of Allah. To this day, scholars are baffled. Who is this Uzair? And what Jew said it? Now, some translations will tell you that Uzair is Ezra, the prophet, but the context is the call to jihad. A lot of people don't know that one of the last chapters before Muhammad died. Now, again, we're basing this on the Muslim sources. There are people who question the Muslim sources. They say, well, because
Muslims.
They're not in Muslim countries, they can't. But you'll have Muslim academics who will tell you, yeah, these are later traditions, they're embellished. And not all Muslims believe in what they call the hadith. Now, the largest group of Muslims identify as Sunni. In fact, you had two of them debating when they were here. They would be Sunni Muslims. One of them was a Salafi. So though they are Sunni...
Daniel or...
Yeah, Jacob, what was his name?
Daniel
The other guy, Jake.
Hariraju.
Daniel
Jacob.
Hakikachu and Jake Brankatala.
Yeah.
Jake, I don't know if it's short for Jacob. Now, he's a Salafi. There are differences among them. And though they belong, and again, I'm not saying these differences prove Islam is false because we got differences among Christians, right? I mean, fair is fair. Islam is not monolithic, neither is Christianity, right? There are flavors of Christianity. But point being, the largest group of Muslims would identify as Sunni, but in that Sunni branch, you have people called Salafis. They have a view of Allah that the other Sunnis do not share. We can get into that. But so, not all Muslims believe in the Hadith. Though it's the largest sect, they would follow what they call the Hadith or the Sunnah. You have Shia. They have their own traditions. They don't accept, in fact, if you come from Iran, it's a majority, right? Mm-hmm. The Ayatollah, yeah. So they would not accept the traditions of Daniel Hakikachu. So when they quote Bukhari, they reject it. They go, we don't follow Bukhari. We have, Kafi, Quran. They have their own traditions. And then there are a group of Muslims who only follow the Quran. They're called Quran-only Muslims. So just like Christianity, you have a variety. So if I'm dealing with a Muslim, I first ask them, what are you? So I can know how to address them. I can't address them the same. Because, you debate Muslims, well, I don't accept the Hadith. I don't care what Bukhari says. I don't care what Muslim says. So I have to now stick with the Quran and show them why there are holes in the narrative. And the point I'm getting at is that in Islamic theology, specifically Sunni, there are certain attributes, names of Allah, that no creature can ascribe to themselves. Some of the names I just showed you, but Jesus ascribed to himself. So now we got a problem. In chapter 9 of the Quran, according to the Sunni tradition, this is one of the last chapters Muhammad gave before he died. These are his final marching orders. And in his final marching orders, if you want to look at it, chapter 9, it starts at 28 all the way to 33. This is, again, according to the Sunni narrative. Now, if you accept the Sunni narrative, then this is one of the last surahs. But if you are one of those Muslims who say, no, these are just later embellishments, well, then you have a hard time because you can't situate the Quran. How do you know when the Quran was written? It doesn't tell you. It doesn't even give you a chronology. For example, if you go to Sunni tradition, there are two periods in the compilation of the Quran. There's what's called the Meccan period and the Medinan period. Mecki, Madani. Again, based on the Islamic narrative, for the first 13 years, Muhammad preached in Mecca. The tone of those chapters that are attributed to that period, very different. To you be your religion, to me my religion. Because he's outnumbered. He doesn't have control. And if he does try to make an attack, they'll squash him. So when you read those chapters from that period, if we take the traditional Sunni narrative, very tolerant. Well, let's get along. Okay, hey, you don't believe my religion, that's fine. To you, your religion, to me, my religion. That's like chapter 109 of the Quran says it. To you, your religion, to me, my religion. That's what they'll often quote. But they quote in the context when they're outnumbered. Then you have what's called the Medinan period, the period where he now goes to Medina and he becomes head of state. The tone changes. It goes from, to you, your religion, to me, my religion. Then you enter Medina. Okay, now, since they oppressed you, you can fight back. Self-defense. Then the final stage is chapter 9. Now he's amassed a large number of soldiers, according to the narrative, right? One of the greatest scholars, in my opinion, questioning the narrative, you had him. He debated, Robert Spencer. If you want what I consider to be one of the most knowledgeable Christians on the historical Muhammad, as well as political Islam, you won't get any better than Robert Spencer. So if you ever want to talk,
really?
Bring him. Oh, he's amazing, right?
Interesting, because he gets a lot of hate and he's got a lot of controversy behind him. I mean, when I announced that I'm bringing him, they were furious about bringing Robert Spencer.
Exactly. Yeah. He's, in my estimation, you know how people say this guy's the best, and that's an ego thing. May God crush our pride, but in my estimation, I don't think there's someone more knowledgeable in political Islam and historical Muhammad than Robert Spencer from a Christian perspective.
Interesting. He
would be part of if you ever get an A team, he'd be part of it. Now, I mention him only because he would question these sources. But if you're a Sunni, because now my audience is now the Sunni Muslim, like whoever it is, if it's Daniel. According to the tradition, chapter 9, one of the final marching orders, he's amassed a large number of soldiers. Now he's telling them, go and expand Islam. It's no longer defend yourself. It's now go and expand Islam politically, economically, socially. That's the context of chapter 9, 28 to 33. But now notice, Muhammad has to give them a pretext to attack. Okay, why are we attacking these people? You're going to see it doesn't say because they threatened you. This is the Islamic narrative. It's because they believe differently from you. Writer, Black and white. You're going to see it. So they don't think I'm lying. And if they want to get the commentators, Ibn Kathir, we're going to have a field day, brother.